questions for dutch@gmail.com. So many of you wrote in. We got a double dose because we didn't do one last week, so we've picked some of the best questions we possibly can. There's a University of Dutch cap while I say that as well. And the first person to write in, this was on the last Ask Dutch Anything, and we didn't get around to it, so we're starting with this one. Kenny, Little Rock, Arkansas. Dutch, how bad was the Soma use in the 1990s, and when did they start getting popular in the wrestling business? Thank you for the show.
Somas. That was when did they get popular? They got popular as soon as they went out. As soon as they came on the market, they were popular with wrestlers. But what Somas would do, they would put you to sleep, and a sound sleep. So, and were they misused? Yes, of course they were misused. And I don't know if they were only any overdoses on them. I guess they probably were, but if you took like 2 or 3 of them, they would knock you out for like 8 hours. Of course, others, I've seen guys staggering around, and they would just keep taking them. They would come to, and then they take another pill and knock them out. Yes, Somas. I'm trying to think of the year. Probably in the late 80s, I think. And that's how I heard about them. Of course, I was taking my cues from the other guys. See, I didn't even know what a Soma was. I wasn't a drug user like that. So the farthest I ever went with drugs was maybe some marijuana, some weed, and drinking, and that's about as far as I went. But these other guys, they were shooting up and they doing everything. And I'm saying, God, stay away from me. But
did you ever try Soma? Did you ever try it once?
I've tried them, but like one, and it made me a little drowsy, and it relaxes you. So I guess the prevailing myth was, you take one, it makes you feel pretty good and relaxes you. So if you take 2, it might do twice that and make you feel better. So, but I remember on a trip one time with Buddy Landell, he took a couple of pills, and we was on this 3-hour trip. And he didn't take too many, but he woke up right when we got to the place we needed to be. And of course, you don't wake up all, sharp and everything. It takes a few minutes for it to wear off. But it was a really heavily used drug.
Was it legal? How did you get them? Was it just like you just go to the pharmacy or something?
When I first heard about them, I'd already heard about them. I was in Puerto Rico. I mean, Puerto Rico keeps popping up. You could just go down to the drugstore and say, give me 100 Somas. And they'd give you 100 Somas without a prescription. It is a prescription drug. And they'd give you 100 Somas, or how many you wanted. So if I was in the Soma business, I could have wrapped up if I'd have wanted to, but I didn't, because they were used quite frequently by the guys.
When did they go out of fashion? Do you know? Was it late 90s, early 2000s, something like that? I mean, I don't know how prevalent they were in the indies.
Probably as soon as the next drug came in, it had more of a kick. I really don't know.
Yeah, I think one of the famous deaths related, I think it was Soma related, was Louis Piccoli. And I think he was one of those people who would take too many and then plop his head into his food and that kind of thing, I guess. So, yes, quite prevalent.
Remember we talked about Eddie Gilbert?
We did.
Eddie Gilbert, they said he died from a drug overdose. I think he had a heart attack, to tell you the truth. But he was taking them, and he'd be eating, and his head would get like this and down to where he's finally his head was almost in his plate. And one night I had to move over. I'm watching him, and I just moved his plate out of the way, and his head kept going, and his head up went all the way down to the table. And then when he woke up, I slid his plate back, and this is like an hour or two later. I slid his plate back, and he went, "Wow, I thought I ate this." And then he started eating. So he was fine by then.
Probably wondering why his food was cold. Right, we'll move on then.